Snow falls gently on my shoulders as I stand at my father's grave. The marble headstone gleams despite the overcast Denver sky. His name Richard Carter etched, with a permanence his life didn't have. I place white roses beside the headstone, their petals already gathering snowflakes. "Goodbye, Dad," I whisper. My breath fills the winter air. My phone buzzes in my coat pocket. I pull it out, the screen illuminating with a name I haven't seen in months. Mom. My stomach tightens as I swipe to answer, already anticipating what's coming. "Lauren, it's your mother." As if I wouldn't recognize the voice that's been alternately praising Ashley and critiquing me for 40 years. "Hi, Mom. How are you?" I brush snow from my sleeve, buying time to steady my voice. "I've been better," she says, her tone trembling just enough to sound vulnerable. "I hate to bother you at such a difficult time, but there has been an emergency with the house." "Of course there has. Underscore. 2 weeks ago, we sat in Attorney Wilson's wood-paneled office as he read Dad's will. The moment still replays in my mind with crystal clarity: the shuffle of papers, the scent of lemon furniture polish, the weight of expectation. To my daughter, Lauren, I leave the sum of $600,000. Mother's face had darkened instantly, her gaze darting to Ashley, whose mouth formed a perfect O of outrage. The attorney continued explaining Dad's wishes that I manage the estate, but I barely heard him over the blood rushing in my ears. $600,000. More money than I'd ever imagined having at once. Ashley had stormed out, not even looking at me. Mother followed without saying goodbye, their departure leaving the air charged and empty simultaneously. Now, standing in the cemetery with snowflakes melting against my cheeks, I listen as Mother details the latest crisis. "The foundation is crumbling, Lauren. There's water damage in the kitchen, and the inspector says the floors could collapse any day now." Her voice rises and falls with practiced distress. "The roof is leaking in 3 places. It's simply not safe." I close my eyes, seeing instead the 10-year-old girl I once was, watching Dad pack his suitcases, while Mother sobbed dramatically in the bedroom. Weekend visits to his new apartment. His steady presence at every school event while Mother focused on Ashley, the baby of the family, who needed more attention. "How much?" I ask, cutting through the detailed description of rot and ruin. A pause. "The contractor estimates $80,000 for everything." "I know it's a lot, but..." "Oh, what, Mom?" "Well, with your job in tech and now your father's money." She lets the sentence dangle. "Your father would have wanted you to help family, Lauren. You know that." The familiar guilt rises, but something else pushes back against it: caution, perhaps. Dad's voice in my head. Underscore. "Look before you leap, Lori." Underscore. "I can help with some of it," I say, choosing my words carefully. "I can transfer $30,000 to start the most critical repairs." 30? The disappointment is immediate. But the contractor needs. "I'll set up a separate account in Texas," I continue, my voice firmer than I feel. "We can assess the rest as the work progresses." The silence stretches between us, heavy with her unspoken accusations of stinginess, of not caring enough. "Fine," she says finally, the word clipped. "I suppose that will have to do for now." I hang up and stare at Dad's headstone, snowflakes now covering the roses completely. For 30 years, I've been the financial safety net, the responsible one, the checkbook that opens when family calls. Even now, with Dad gone, nothing has changed. Except me. Something shifts in my chest, not quite resolved, but it's seedling. I've spent 30 years trying to buy my mother's love. But some prices are too high, even for the daughter who always paid. As I turn to leave, a question surfaces that I've never allowed myself to fully consider. Have you ever felt that nagging doubt after helping family? The feeling that somehow you're still being taken advantage of? I should have trusted that instinct, because what I discovered next would change everything. Steam rises from my latte as I settle into the corner booth at Copper Mountain Coffee. Outside, downtown Denver bustles with lunch hour energy. But in here, the warm lighting and rich aroma of freshly ground beans create a sanctuary. Lauren! Sarah's voice cuts through the ambient chatter. She waves from the entrance, her familiar smile instantly transporting me back to college days. I stand to embrace her, feeling the genuine warmth of her hug. God, how long has it been? 3 years? 4. Sarah corrects, sliding into the booth across from me. She unwraps her scarf, revealing the same laughing eyes I remember from our dorm days. Not since Emma's birthday party. We fall into conversation as if the years between meetings never happened. Sarah talks about her physical therapy practice. I share stories about my latest project launch. The rhythm feels natural, comforting. So, Sarah says, stirring her chai, James has been swamped lately. His event planning business is really taking off. That's fantastic, I reply, remembering Sarah's husband with his meticulous attention to detail. Good planners are hard to find. Tell me about it. Sarah scrolls through her phone, then tilts the screen toward me. He's coordinating the Sullivan wedding in Houston next month. Ashley Sullivan? Your sister, right? My coffee cup freezes midway to my lips. It's going to be quite the affair, Sarah continues, oblivious to my sudden stillness. James says they're spending close to $70,000 on just the basics. The venue alone, this gorgeous plantation house outside Houston, is costing a fortune. I set my cup down carefully. $70,000? At least. Sarah nods enthusiastically. Designer dress, custom cake, around $150 on the guest list. James said it's one of the most extravagant weddings he's coordinating this year. The coffee turns bitter on my tongue as one thought crystallizes in my mind. I haven't received an invitation. Lauren, you okay? Sarah's brow furrows. I force a smile. Just surprised. I hadn't heard many details. Sarah's expression shifts to confusion. But you're going, right? James mentioned it's happening in 4 weeks. Of course, I lie, reaching for my wallet to disguise the trembling in my hands. Listen, I need to run. Early meeting. This was wonderful, though. Our kitchen feels unnaturally quiet that evening as I open my laptop. The house is empty market as Thursday basketball game, the kids at their grandparents'. The silence amplifies the sound of my heartbeat as I log into the Texas bank account. The balance reads $0. My breath catches. I click to the transaction history, watching as the story unfolds in cold, digital precision. Steady withdrawals over 3 weeks, culminating in a final large transfer to Sullivan Wedding Services 7 days ago. $80,000. Gone. Not for crumbling foundations or leaking roofs. For centerpieces and champagne toasts at a wedding I wasn't invited to attend. My hands move to my phone before my brain fully processes what I'm doing. Mother answers on the 3rd ring, her voice unnervingly cheerful. Lauren, what a nice surprise. I pace the kitchen, forcing control into my voice. I was just checking in about the house repairs. How are they coming along? Oh, she pauses. They haven't started yet. You know how contractors are unreliable, always promising what they can't deliver. My fingers tighten around the phone. Each word from her mouth now sounds different, though. Constructed. I see. I trace a finger along our kitchen counter, gathering courage. And what about Ashley's wedding? The silence stretches long enough that I check my screen to see if the call dropped. Then, her voice returns, pitched slightly higher. Well, yes, Ashley is getting married. It's all happened rather quickly. I'm sure she was planning to tell you herself. With my money? The words escape before I can soften them. Another pause. Lauren, I don't know what you're talking about. The money you sent was for the house. The money is gone, Mom. All of it. Transferred to Sullivan Wedding Services. There must be some mistake. I hang up, my body suddenly too heavy to hold upright. I lean against the counter, breathing deeply to keep the room from spinning. The front door opens, and Mark's footsteps cross the entryway. He appears in the kitchen doorway, gym bag slung over his shoulder, his smile fading instantly when he sees my face. What happened? He sets down his bag, moving to my side. They lied to me. My voice sounds distant, detached. The house repairs were never real. They used the money for Ashley's wedding. A wedding I wasn't even invited to. Mark's jaw tightens, but his voice remains steady. What do you want to do? I need to know everything first. I straighten, drawing strength from his solid presence. I'm calling Aunt Carol. 20 minutes later, I'm sitting on her bedroom floor, back against the bed, as my father's sister confirms what I already know in my heart. This wasn't the first time, honey. Carol's Texan drawl carries the weight of long-held concerns. Remember Ashley's knee surgery 3 years ago? That money went to kitchen renovations. Your mother's been showing it off to everyone in the neighborhood. And the wedding? I ask, though I already know the answer. It's all anyone in their circle talks about. The Sullivan event of the decade. Carol's voice softens. They're using you, Lauren. Richard would be heartbroken. After we hang up, I find myself staring at a family photo from my childhood. Dad's arm is protectively wrapped around my shoulders, his smile genuine while Mother seems practiced. Ashley clutched possessively in her arms. When you discover your family sees you as nothing but a checkbook, you have 2 choices. Keep signing checks, or tear up the book. What would you do if your own mother and sister conspired to steal from you? Because what I did next would change our family forever. Financial statements spread across my home office desk like fallen leaves after an autumn storm. Checks, bank statements, and money transfer confirmations from the past 5 years. I've been piecing this puzzle together for hours, my hand cramping as I input each transaction into a spreadsheet. The final sum glares from my laptop screen. $204,387. $200,000 in emergencies. Medical bills that never existed. Home repairs that were never completed. Car troubles for vehicles that ran perfectly fine. Education expenses for courses Ashley never took. The Colorado morning sun streams through my office window, catching dust motes that dance in the light. I should feel something stronger than this hollow emptiness in my chest. Rage, perhaps. Instead, I feel a strange calm, like the eye of a hurricane knowing destruction surrounds me, but experiencing a moment of unnatural stillness. Mark's warm hand lands gently on my shoulder, startling me. How bad is it? He asks, his voice quiet with concern. I gesture at the screen. Over $200,000 in 5 years, not counting the wedding money. He whistles low, squeezing my shoulder. Enough is enough, Lauren. I nod, closing my eyes briefly. I know. But I've said those words before, haven't I? Each time drawing a line in the sand, only to redraw it farther back when Mother crossed it with another desperate call. Another engineered crisis. I want them to hear me say it, I decide, standing up. Not in a text or email. I want to hear their excuses, their justifications. I need to know if they ever saw me as anything more than an ATM. 30 minutes later, my cell phone sits on speaker in the center of our dining table. Mark sits beside me, his presence a silent fortress of support. I've rehearsed what I'll say, but my heart still hammers against my ribs as I dial. Mother answers on the 3rd ring. Lauren, is everything okay? The concern in her voice almost sounds genuine. No, Mom. Everything is not okay. My voice remains steadier than I expected. I know about Ashley's wedding. I know where my money really went. A beat of silence stretches between us. Then, oh, Lauren, don't be dramatic. Ashley needed help, and you weren't using the money anyway. The casual dismissal ignites something in my chest. Not using. It was my money. Given to me by Dad. Your father would have wanted to help Ashley too, she counters, her voice hardening. Besides, Ashley didn't want to ask you directly for wedding money. I blink, momentarily speechless. What? She didn't want to owe you anything. Mother explains as if this twisted logic makes perfect sense. You're always so superior about these things, making people feel small when you help them. The accusation lands like a slap. Mark's hand finds mine under the table, squeezing gently. Put Ashley on the phone, I say, my voice unnaturally calm. I know she's with you. Rustling sounds filter through the speaker, followed by Ashley's voice, sharp and defensive from the start. What's your problem now, Lauren? Mom already told you. My problem is that you and Mom stole from me, I interrupt. You lied about house repairs to fund your wedding. A wedding I wasn't even invited to. Oh, please, Ashley scoffs. You got Dad's money. I deserve something too. The entitlement in her voice leaves me breathless. And you couldn't just ask me honestly? Like you would have said yes, she snaps. Miss Perfect with her perfect job and perfect husband. You'd have looked down your nose at me like you always do. I've given you money every time you've asked for 15 years. I say, memories flashing through my mind, her car down payment, her rent when she was between jobs, her emergency dental work. When have I ever said no? It's not about the money, Mother interjects. It's about how you make us feel when you give it, like we're charity cases. This is rich coming from you, I say, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. You've always treated me like an outsider. Dad was the only one who... There it is. Mother's voice rises. Richard always favored you, paid for your education, your first apartment. You've always had it easier. Easier? The word feels like broken glass in my mouth. I worked my way through college even with Dad's help. I built my career while sending you both money whenever you asked. How is that easier? You think you're so much better than us, Ashley hisses. With your big Denver house and your tech job, some of us weren't handed everything on a silver platter. The familiar accusation finally breaks something loose inside Meth's narrative. They've constructed where I'm somehow both the cash cow and the privileged villain. The pattern crystallizes with sudden clarity, the guilt trips, the emergencies always timed when things are going well for me, the resentment disguised as gratitude. I'm not sending any more money, I say, each word deliberate and clear. Ever. The silence that follows is brief but profound. Lauren, honey, you don't mean that. Mother's voice shifts instantly from defensive to pleading. We're family. Families help each other. You knew I'd help if you'd asked honestly. Instead, you lied and stole from me. Oh my God, you're going to destroy this family over money? Ashley's voice rises to a near shriek. After everything Mom has done for you? You already destroyed it when you decided to lie, I reply, surprised by how steady my voice remains. This isn't about money. It's about respect and trust. I end the call before they can respond. The dining room feels suddenly too quiet, the space emptied of everything but truth. Mark and I sit in silence for a long moment, my hand still in his. Are you okay? He finally asks. No, I admit, but I will be. Later that evening, we sit at the kitchen table with mugs of tea, discussing next steps. The Texas bank account needs to be closed permanently. Our phone numbers might need to change if the harassment escalates. There are practical matters to attend to. But beneath it all runs a current of grief I hadn't anticipated mourning the family I wished I had, rather than the one I actually got. I keep thinking I should feel more guilty, I confess, staring into my mug. Shouldn't I feel terrible about cutting off my own mother? Mark's eyes kind and clear meet mine. If you keep giving, they'll never stop taking. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set a boundary. I nod, standing to retrieve our wedding album from the bookshelf. We flip through pages showing our modest celebration of a small gathering at a mountain lodge, surrounded by friends who genuinely celebrated our happiness. No elaborate floral arrangements or designer gown, just authentic joy. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. I murmur, tracing the outline of my father in one of the photos, his proud smile as he walked me down the aisle. I finally believed what my mother and sister had been showing me for years. I closed the album gently, setting it aside. The pain remains, but alongside it grows something elsey quiet certainty that I've done the right thing. For perhaps the first time, I've honored my worth more than my guilt. Have you ever had to make the painful choice between keeping peace and keeping your dignity? Because my mother's next move would test mine to the breaking point. Mark's voice crackles through my cell phone, uncharacteristic tension straining his usually calm tone. Lauren, I may have messed up. I grip the phone tighter, the conference room suddenly feeling too small despite its wall of windows overlooking downtown Denver. What happened? Your mother called my office. The words land like stones. She was crying, Lauren. Said Ashley's wedding was falling apart because of financial issues. My stomach knots as I gather my presentation materials. What did you tell her? I tried to be vague, but when she started talking about what a disappointment you've been, his voice hardens. I snapped and said we knew everything about the house repairs, scam, and the wedding. I closed my eyes, imagining Mother's face shifting from tearful manipulation to calculated anger. It's okay. They would have figured it out soon enough. I hang up and step into the elevator. By the time I reach the parking garage, my phone is alive with notifications. 3 missed calls from Mother, 5 from Ashley. The voicemails stack up like accusations. I sit in my car and press play, Mother's voice filling the space. Lauren, how could you be so cruel after all we've done for you? Delete. This is your sister. Thanks for ruining the biggest day of my life. Delete. Mother again, voice modulating from outrage to a practiced vulnerability that once would have gutted me. Sweetheart, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Please call me back. The wedding venue is demanding another $40,000, or they'll cancel everything. I stare at the phone, a strange calm settling over me. The desperation is almost impressive in its audacity. They've downgraded from the Grand Hyatt to the community center on Westheimer. Sarah's voice carries a mixture of disbelief and secondhand embarrassment over my speakerphone as I chop vegetables for dinner. Ryan says the guest list got cut in half. They're asking people to bring dishes instead of catering. I slide diced bell peppers into a bowl. What about Ashley? How's she handling it? Not well. Ryan overheard her screaming at the wedding planner yesterday. The poor man was trying to explain that without the promised funds, they couldn't secure the original vendors. Mark enters the kitchen, raising an eyebrow at my half smile. I cover the phone. Wedding apocalypse updates. He shakes his head, squeezing my shoulder before reaching for wine glasses. Sarah continues, but here's the real bombshell. The groom's parents found out about the financial situation. You mean the theft? I say, the word still feeling strange on my tongue when applied to family. Yes. They cornered the wedding planner, demanding to know why everything was changing last minute. When he explained what happened with the funding, she pauses. They're threatening to convince their son to back out. They're saying Ashley lied to them about where the money was coming from. I absorb this, feeling an unexpected pang of sympathy for my sister, quickly tempered by reality. Let me guess she's blaming everyone but herself. Bingo. Especially you. Friday night, Mark and I sit across from our friends Tom and Elise at our favorite Italian restaurant. My phone rests in my purse, deliberately powered off. Tom's story about his son's disastrous science project has us all laughing. I feel my shoulders drop fully for the first time in weeks. The weight of family drama temporarily lifted in this bubble of genuine friendship. Lauren, Elise says, studying me over her wine glass. You look lighter somehow. It suits you. I smile, surprised by the observation, but knowing it's true. I feel lighter. Mark's hand finds mine under the table, a silent acknowledgement of how far we've come. The executive boardroom falls silent as I conclude my presentation. Our CEO nods appreciatively. Outstanding work, Lauren. The security protocol overhaul is exactly what we needed. Pride warms my chest as I gather my materials. 3 weeks of late nights paid off, the project coming together despite family distractions. In the hallway, I finally power up my phone. A single voicemail notification appears. Mother. I press play, steeling myself. The wedding's been scaled back. Her voice is tight, controlled. They're saying it's your fault. I hope you're satisfied. I delete the message without a flicker of regret and slide the phone into my pocket. 6 weeks ago, that message would have sent me spiraling into guilt and self-recrimination. Now, it feels like someone else's problem because it is. Standing at my office window overlooking the mountains that frame Denver's skyline, I watch clouds gather for an afternoon storm. There's beauty in their darkness, in the promise of cleansing rain. Sometimes the most painful decisions lead to the most peaceful outcomes. What price have you paid for your own peace? Because my mother was about to tell me exactly what mine would cost. The soil crumbles between my fingers as I nestle another purple coneflower into the freshly turned earth of my garden bed. May sunshine warms my shoulders, a welcome change from the snow that blanketed Dad's grave 4 months ago. The scent of damp earth and coffee mingles in the morning air, my favorite combination. My phone vibrates against the cedar mulch where I've placed it. Mother's name flashes on the screen. I don't answer, continuing instead to press soil around the delicate roots. The vibration stops, replaced seconds later by the soft chime of a voicemail notification. For a moment, I consider ignoring it, but something in me needs to hear whatever she has to say. I wipe my hands on my gardening jeans, press the speaker button, and set the phone on the garden ledge as I continue working. Mother's voice emerges, colder than I've ever heard it, a steel blade wrapped in tissue paper. Lauren, I've given this a great deal of thought. A pause punctuates her calculated delivery. As far as I'm concerned, I only have one daughter now. My hands freeze in the soil, but I don't look up. You've destroyed what should have been Ashley's special day. Her fiancé's family nearly called off the entire wedding when they found out about the venue change. Her voice tightens. Ashley will never forgive you for this humiliation, and neither will I. Don't contact us again. The message ends. No goodbye. I place my phone down among the flowers and sit back on my heels. The weight I've carried since Dad's funeral, perhaps since childhood, slides from my shoulders. A smile tugs at my lips, surprising me with its authenticity. From the patio door, Mark watches, concern etching lines around his eyes. He steps outside, coffee mug in hand. Everything okay? He asks, crossing the flagstone path to my garden. I look up at him, dirt smudged across my cheek. It's over, and I'm okay. The words feel true the moment they leave my lips. That evening, Sarah calls as Mark and I finish dinner. I thought you should know, she says, her voice low, as if sharing a secret. The wedding almost didn't happen. Tom told me that 2 hours before the ceremony, James discovered that Ashley had lied to his parents about the venue change. Said it was because of budget issues when they'd already given $15,000 toward it. I load a plate into the dishwasher, phone pressed between ear and shoulder. What happened? James threatened to back out. Called the whole thing emotional fraud. Sarah pauses. But Ashley blamed everything on Tom. Said the wedding planner mishandled their funds and forced last-minute changes. My stomach tightens. She didn't. She did. Tom's lost 3 clients already from the fallout. His reputation is on the line, and he had nothing to do with it. I set down the dish towel. I'll call him tomorrow. I have emails documenting exactly where that money went. After hanging up, I join Mark on the porch swing. Night has fallen, painting the sky in deep indigo. The creaking rhythm of the swing matches my heartbeat. Did I ever tell you about the summer Dad taught me to fish? I ask, my voice soft in the darkness. Mark's arm tightens around my shoulders. I don't think so. I was 12. He took me to this little lake outside Houston, just the 2 of us. I spent hours watching my line waiting. The memory washes over me, clear as yesterday. Finally, something tugged, and I yanked so hard I fell backward. Dad helped me up, laughing, but I'd lost the fish. Mark listens, his breathing steady beside me. When I started crying, he told me something I never forgot. He said, Sometimes, Lori, you have to know when to hold tight and when to let go. The trick is figuring out which one keeps you standing. Stars emerge overhead, pinpricks of clarity in the vast darkness. You didn't lose a family, Mark says, his voice gentle but firm. You freed yourself from people who never treated you like family. Tears slide down my cheeks, not of sadness, but release. Decades of striving for approval, of trying to earn love through checks and sacrifices, wash away with each drop. The next morning, I read a check at my desk. The amount equals exactly what Ashley's full wedding would have cost. $70,000. The recipient, Denver Children's Education Foundation. Mark's hand rests on my shoulder as I sign my name with steady strokes. This is what Dad would have wanted, I whisper, sealing the envelope. Later, I retrieve an old family photo from my desk drawer, the four of us at my high school graduation. Dad beaming, Mother's tight smile, Ashley scowling in the background, and me in the center, cap askew, caught between worlds. I study it one last time before placing it in the bottom drawer, closing it firmly. We don't get to choose the family we're born into, but we do get to choose the people we allow to remain in our lives. Have you ever had to walk away from toxic family for your own well-being? I never thought I could until I realized what staying was costing me not just financially, but in the currency of my own self-worth. The garden calls to me, new flowers waiting to be planted in soil that will actually help them grow. 6 months later, laughter flows as freely as the wine in our dining room. Mark squeezes my hand under the table while our friends debate the merits of hiking trails around Denver. The chandelier casts warm light across faces I actually trust, a revelation that still surprises me. You seem different, Lauren, says Diane, Mark's colleague, studying me across her wine glass. Happier somehow. I smile, feeling the truth of it in my shoulders, no longer braced for the next crisis call. I am. The conversation drifts to summer plans while I slip into the kitchen for dessert plates. Through the window, my garden stretches in neat, deliberate rose peas climbing trellises, tomatoes ripening in the Colorado sun. 6 months of freedom from manipulation has allowed other things to grow besides vegetables. The first red flag is when they won't tell you exactly what the money is for, I explain, standing before 20 people at the community center. The second is when they make it about your character if you really loved me, or after all I've done for you. I click to the next slide in my financial literacy presentation. A woman in the front row nods, recognition flickering across her face. 3 months of volunteering here has shown me how common my story is, the sophisticated emotional blackmail that leaves bank accounts empty and hearts broken. You're not being stingy by asking questions, I continue. You're being responsible. Love doesn't require payment. Afterward, the woman approaches me with tears in her eyes. My son has been draining my retirement for years. I never knew how to stop it. I hand her my card. Now you do. When the email from Aunt Carol arrives, I'm at my desk reviewing quarterly projections. The subject line reads simply, Update. Ashley's marriage is already showing cracks. 3 months in, and they're in counseling. Your mother called last week, another emergency with the furnace. I told her my accountant handles all my finances now. Thought you should know. I closed the email without reply. No surge of satisfaction, no twist of guilt, just quiet acknowledgement. Their problems are no longer mine to solve. Emma's college fund is set up, Mark says. Laptop open at our kitchen table. And we've earmarked some of your dad's money for Jessie's education. I think of Mark's niece, brilliant and determined, her single mother struggling to make ends meet. It feels different when it's built on truth, doesn't it? I say. No manipulation, just genuine desire to help. He closes the laptop, considers me. You've changed. For the better, I hope. His smile tells me everything I need to know. Summer drapes Denver in golden light as I approach Dad's grave again. No snow now, just wildflowers nodding in the gentle breeze. I place fresh roses beside the headstone, the marble warm beneath my fingers. I did it, Dad, I say quietly. I found my voice. A chickadee lands on a nearby branch, tilts its head as if listening. We started a scholarship in your name engineering students who need a chance, just like you gave me. The words come easier now. My conversations with him were peace than grief. And I'm teaching Emma and Jacob about healthy boundaries. They'll never need to earn anyone's love. I touched the headstone one last time. Thank you for the real inheritance. That evening, I write in my journal, pen flowing across paper with certainty. Real family isn't defined by DNA but by respect. By people who see your boundaries as a sign of health, not rejection. By those who celebrate your joy instead of demanding your resources. I once thought losing my mother and sister would leave a hole nothing could fill. Instead, it created space for genuine connections to flourish. I close the journal, my finger tracing the final line I've written. Sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't money, but the courage to protect your own heart. What's the most valuable lesson you've learned about family relationships? Share your story in the comments below. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who treat you as an ATM instead of a person worthy of respect. If this story resonated with you, please hit subscribe and the notification bell. Next week, I'll be sharing another powerful story about finding strength through difficult family choices.
The monitor beeps in perfect rhythm with my heartbeat steady, persistent, mechanical. Sunlight streams through half-drawn blinds, casting harsh rectangles across the sterile white sheets covering my broken body. I stare at the ceiling, counting the tiny holes in the acoustic tiles for the 43rd time since morning rounds. Miss Jenkins. Dr. Mehta's voice draws my attention as he enters, clipboard in hand, eyes kind but clinical. How's the pain level today? Still hovering around a 7, I reply, wincing as I shift slightly. Every movement reminds me of what happened. He nods, making a note. That's to be expected. Your injuries were substantial fractured shoulder, 3 broken ribs, internal bleeding. You're lucky to be alive, miss. Jenkins. Lucky. The word lands like a stone in my stomach. Your recovery will take time, he continues, checking the monitors. But you're stable now. That's what matters. I force a smile that doesn't reach my eyes. Thank you. Dr. Mehta pauses before leaving, his gaze sweeping the empty room. No flowers, no cards, no family. Just the sterile efficiency of medical equipment keeping me company. Is there someone we should call? He asks, the question gentle but pointed. They know, I say, looking away. They're just busy. After he leaves, the silence settles heavily around me. 6 days. 6 days since the accident, and still no sign of my parents. I've made excuses in my mind. Maybe they didn't get the message, maybe they're traveling, maybe there's been some misunderstanding. The same litany of maybes I've been reciting my entire life. The door swings open again, and for a heartbeat, I imagine it's them. But it's Sarah, my closest friend, her arms filled with a container that steams slightly. Homemade chicken soup, she announces, setting it on the rolling tray. Hospital food is criminal. The simple kindness brings unexpected tears to my eyes. Hey, what's this? Sarah sits carefully on the edge of the bed, her hand finding mine. Bad day? I blink rapidly. Just grateful you're here. She arranges the soup, napkins, spoon-small comforts that suddenly mean everything. I thought your parents would be here by now, she says, the words casual but the impact seismic. They're coming soon. I lie, the words bitter on my tongue. Sarah's brow furrows. Really? Because. She stops herself, but something in her expression makes my heart pound faster than the monitors can track. Because what, Sarah? She hesitates, then pulls out her phone. I didn't want to show you this, but you should know. She swipes through to a social media post, then reluctantly turns the screen toward me. The image strikes harder than the car that hit me 6 days ago. My parents, beaming with pride, standing beside my sister Cassandra as she accepts some award. The timestamp, yesterday. They're in Chicago? My voice sounds far away, hollow. Sarah nods, her face a portrait of contained fury. Cassandra's marketing award ceremony. They've been posting about it all week. The truth crashes through every defense I've built. They didn't come, not because they couldn't, but because they chose not to. The physical pain of my broken bones suddenly seems insignificant compared to this new wound. I close my eyes, and the accident replays in vivid detail. Rain-slicked Chicago streets, headlights reflecting off wet pavement, the sudden impact as a drunk driver swerved into my lane. Screeching metal, shattering glass, the first responders cutting me from the wreckage. And now, this second collision, the realization that I'm truly alone in this hospital room by choice, their choice. Memory after memory surfaces, childhood birthdays where Cassandra received lavish gifts while I received practical ones. My high school graduation where they beamed at Cassandra, then merely nodded at me as I crossed the stage. Family photos where I always stood slightly apart. Christmas mornings with Cassandra's pile of presents towering over my modest few. Years of making excuses for their behavior. Dad's just stressed about work. Mom doesn't mean to compare us. Cassandra needs more attention. She's the sensitive one. With trembling fingers, I reach for my phone on the bedside table. 6 days of silence stare back at me from the screen. Not one call, not one text asking how I am. Nothing. I type a careful message. It's been 6 days since my accident. Why haven't you visited? Minutes tick by, marked by the steady beep of the monitor. Then the phone buzzes. Cassandra needed our support more. We'll try to stop by next week. I stare at those words until they blur. Something breaks inside me and, unlike my bones, I don't think it will heal the same way. What would you do if your family abandoned you during your darkest hour? Would you forgive, or would you finally see the truth you've been avoiding your entire life? I know what I have to do now. And they'll never see it coming. Miss Jenkins, just checking on your pain level? Nurse Chen adjusts my 4 with practiced efficiency. Still around a 6, I reply, though the physical pain has become secondary to the hollow ache spreading through my chest. She hesitates, clipboard clutched against her scrubs. I should mention, your parents did call once. My heart lifts momentarily. They wanted to know how soon you could be discharged. She avoids my eyes, busying herself with the monitors. I told them recovery would be substantial given your injuries. The momentary hope crumbles, not, how is she doing, or can we speak to her, just when can she leave? Thank you for telling me. I manage, my voice steadier than I feel. After she leaves, Sarah returns, her expression tight as she sits beside the bed. Mads, I need to show you something else. Her thumb swipes across her phone screen before she hands it to me, reluctance in every movement. Fresh photos of my parents appear not in Chicago anymore, but posing before the Eiffel Tower, champagne glasses raised. The caption reads, "Celebrating our amazing Cassandra's achievement with an extended European tour. First stop, Paris." They extended their trip. The words taste like ash. They knew I was here, and they extended their trip. Sarah's face contorts with restrained fury. 3 more countries. They've got the whole itinerary posted. I scroll back through months of texts from my Parenza digital archive of disappointments. Cancellations from my birthday dinner because Cassandra needs help preparing for her presentation. Missing my company award ceremony because your sister is going through a difficult time with her breakup. Pattern so clear I wonder how I never truly saw it before. My phone buzzes with a new message from them. We'll visit when we return. This trip with Cassandra couldn't be postponed. You've always been the strong one, you understand. The social worker visits that afternoon, a kind-faced woman named Janet who speaks in careful, measured tones. Madeline, I notice your emergency contacts haven't visited. She phrases it delicately. Is there someone else we should call for your discharge planning? I shake my head. My friends will help. Family support is crucial for recovery, she suggests. Perhaps some counseling together when they return? I could arrange? They're in Europe, I interrupt, with my sister. They extended their trip after my accident. Her professional mask slips momentarily, genuine concern breaking through. I see. She makes a note, then meets my eyes directly. In that case, let's discuss resources for your independent recovery. She leaves a folder on my bedside table. Between painkiller doses, I flip through medical bills already accumulating, insurance forms, home care instructions. The estimated total makes my stomach clench. Not a word from my parents about helping with any of it. I close my eyes and see them clearly for the first time. Dad Richard Jenkins, Senior Vice President at Morton Financial, measuring worth by achievements and status. His annual Christmas speech always includes a detailed accounting of Cassandra's accomplishments, followed by a brief, "And Madeline continues her work at that software company." Mom Evelyn Jenkins, the consummate enabler who once explained their favoritism with, "Different children need different things, dear. Cassandra just needs more attention." The same mother who missed my college graduation for Cassandra's dance recital. Their coordinated manipulation suddenly transparent. You've always been the strong one. Translation: you require less effort, so you receive less attention. My phone lights up with messages, not from my parents, but from people who actually care. From my boss, Kevin. Team has arranged coverage for as long as you need. Focus on healing. Full pay, continue as no arguments. From childhood friend Emma. Booked my flight from Seattle. Will be there Tuesday morning. Don't argue already, took the time off. From my coworkers. Meal train organized for your first week's home. Schedule and dietary preferences attached. The hospital staff treats me with extra gentleness, the night nurse bringing me real coffee instead of the standard issue. You remind me of my daughter, she says. Strong, but everybody needs somebody. In the bed beside mine, 83-year-old Doris watches Wheel of Fortune with the volume too high. Your folks haven't visited, she observes bluntly between shouting answers at the television. They're in Europe, I reply, the excuse sounding hollow even to my ears. Doris snorts. My daughter hasn't spoken to me in 12 years over a casserole recipe. Families. She turns toward me, wisdom etched in every wrinkle. But let me tell you something, young lady. Blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. Dr. Mehta returns with my updated prognosis. Recovery will take months, not weeks. He explains, reviewing my chart. Physical therapy twice weekly, limited mobility. You'll need assistance with daily tasks initially. The reality sinks in what family would typically provide. I will have to find elsewhere. My phone buzzes again. A message from my parents. We'll stop by to see you when we return next week. Something shifts inside me, a tectonic plate of emotion finally breaking free. I type carefully. I needed you here, not when it was convenient for you. Please don't bother coming when you return. I'll be recovering elsewhere. My thumb hovers over the send button. My whole life has been spent making excuses for them, smoothing things over, being the strong one who needs nothing. I press send. The relief is immediate and staggering, like setting down a weight I've carried so long I'd forgotten it wasn't part of me. When Sarah returns that evening, I show her the message. Her eyes widen, then fill with fierce pride. About damn time, she says, squeezing my hand. For the first time since the accident, I feel something unexpected. Not just anger or abandonment, but the first fragile seedling of freedom. Have you ever had to face the painful truth that someone you love doesn't value you the same way? At what point do we stop making excuses for family who continually let us down? The monitor beeps for the last time as the nurse disconnects me from the machines. Tomorrow, finally, I'll leave this sterile prison. 12 days since a drunk driver shattered my body at an intersection. 12 days of pain, morphine dreams, and the harsh reality of who truly matters in my life. Your parents stopped by while you were in physical therapy, Nurse Diane says, adjusting my pillows. Her eyes avoid mine. They wanted to see you before discharge tomorrow. After 12 days, I say, the words like pebbles in my mouth. How thoughtful. Diane's mouth tightens at the corners. We both know what thoughtful doesn't look like. The hospital room door swings open, and there they are, father in his tailored navy suit, mother in her cream cashmere sweater, perfectly coiffed, perfectly timed to make an appearance before I leave. Madeline, dear? Mother's voice carries that familiar lilt of practiced concern as she surveys the room, her nose wrinkling slightly. This room is rather basic, isn't it? We could have arranged for something more comfortable. It kept me alive, I reply, watching father check his phone, his thumb scrolling through emails more important than his daughter's broken body. You look tired, mother continues, reaching to smooth my unwashed hair. I flinch away, my fractured shoulder protesting the sudden movement. Pain rockets through me, but I welcome it, it's honest at least. Recovery from multiple fractures and internal bleeding tends to do that. My voice sounds different to my ears, stronger, less apologetic. Father glances up from his phone. The hospital billing department called. I forwarded everything to our accountant. No questions about pain, no inquiry about my recovery plan. Just business, as always. How considerate. The words fall between us like dropped stones. Now, Madeline, mother says, her voice taking on that familiar, placating tone. We understand you might be upset, but our trip with Cassandra couldn't be postponed. You know how important that award was for her career. 12 days, I say quietly. Pardon? It's been 12 days since a car going 50 miles an hour crushed mine. 12 days since they cut me out of the wreckage. 12 days of pain and recovery and wondering if my family cared if I lived or died. The silence stretches between us, uncomfortable and raw. Don't be melodramatic, father says finally, slipping his phone into his jacket pocket. We knew you were in good hands. You've always been the strong one. Strong, the word they use when they mean convenient to ignore. We expect you'll bounce back quickly, mother adds, glancing at her watch. We have dinner reservations at Montrose's at 7. We should be going. They leave with promises to help once I'm settled, the door closing softly behind them. No hugs, no tears, just expectations that I'll forgive and forget, as I always have. The next morning, Sarah wheels me out of the hospital. No parents in sight. Your chariot awaits, she says, helping me into her Honda. The movement sends fire through my ribs, but I bite back a cry. When we reach my apartment, I'm greeted by a transformation. Grab bars installed in the bathroom, kitchen reorganized with essentials at waist level, a makeshift bed set up in the living room to avoid stairs. We took turns, Emma explains, flying in from Seattle despite her terror of planes. Kevin helped install the grab bars. Mrs. Peterson reorganized your kitchen. The meal prep team from work filled your freezer. My throat tightens as I take it all in this tangible evidence of love. I don't know what to say, I whisper. You don't need to say anything, Sarah replies, setting my medication schedule on the coffee table. This is what family does. Family. The word lands differently now. 3 days later, the apartment door buzzes unexpectedly. Sarah opens it to reveal my parents, carrying a small potted plant and wearing expectant smiles. We thought we'd surprise you, Mother announces, stepping in without waiting for an invitation. Her eyes sweep critically over the modifications to my space. Oh dear, this setup looks so institutional. Father follows, frowning at the hospital bed in my living room. Is all this really necessary? Seems excessive. Behind them, I catch Sarah's eyes widening in disbelief. The physical therapist recommended it, Emma says from the kitchen, her voice neutral but firm, for proper recovery. Mother beelines to my medication chart, picking it up with a critical eye. This schedule seems complicated. I should reorganize it for you. Something shifts inside me like a bone finally setting into place. I needed you, I say quietly. The room falls silent. I needed you when I was in the hospital. I have support now. Mother's hand flutters to her throat. Madeline, we're here now. That's what matters. No, I reply, the clarity of the word surprising even me. When you needed me all my life for Cassandra's events, for family appearances, for the image of a perfect family showed up. When I needed you, you chose something else. That's what matters. Father's jaw tightens. We're still your parents. Yes, but these people, I gesture to Sarah, Emma, and the evidence of others' care around the apartment. These people are my family now. They leave shortly after, discomfort radiating from their stiff shoulders. The door closes behind them, and for the first time since the accident, I feel something like peace. Push through it, my physical therapist commands as I struggle to lift my arm 15 degrees, sweat beads on my forehead, my muscles screaming in protest. I can't, I gasp. You can! You're rebuilding, Madeline! This is how strength returns. Rebuilding. The word echoes as I force my shattered body to move. Each small victory marked on the calendar, I've created a document of resurrection. Later, when the session ends, I notice my phone on the table. No messages from my parents. 3 weeks ago, this would have devastated me. Today, I simply put the phone in my bag. You know, my therapist says, watching me closely, you're healing more than just your body here. That night, sorting through old photo albums during my recovery, I see what I've always refused to acknowledge. In every family photo, mother's arm around Cassandra, father's proud hand on her shoulder, and me, always slightly apart, smiling too hard, trying to belong. I find my childhood diaries, reading entries with new eyes. Mom missed my science fair today. Cassandra had a cold. Dad said my A in calculus was expected, but took Cassandra out for ice cream for her Psi 1 in English. No one remembered my birthday until dinner. The tears come then, not for the present pain, but for the little girl who never understood why she wasn't enough. I cry until there's nothing left, mourning the family love I never had. And in the morning, I wake with a strange lightness. The pain in my body remains, but something else has shifted. I look at the calendar where I've been marking my progress. Today, I add a new notation. Freedom Day. The steady rhythm of my life has finally found its cadence again. 6 weeks into recovery, and my apartment no longer feels like a medical ward. I've banished the raised toilet seat to the closet, tucked away the shower chair, and relegated the pill organizer to a single kitchen drawer instead of dominating my counter. Small victories. Evening sunlight streams through my west-facing windows as I water the peace lilies Sarah brought when I first came home. It's thriving, unlike the relationship with my parents, which has withered to the occasional perfunctory text message. I prefer it this way. My journal sits open on the coffee table, today's entry still drying. Walked 8 blocks without pain. First day back at Horizon went better than expected. Kevin arranged a welcome-back lunch. No one treated me like I might break. The apartment has become my sanctuary during these weeks of healing. Gone are the family photos that once cluttered my bookshelf, subtle reminders of what I thought I had, or what I hoped for. In their place stand new memories, a candid shot of the hospital staff who threw me an impromptu discharge party, a selfie with Sarah during my first post-accident outing, a group photo from the surprise dinner my coworkers organized last week. I settle onto the couch, savoring the simple pleasure of being able to sit without wincing. My phone buzzes with a text from Emma. Call me tomorrow? Want to hear about your first day back? The unexpected pounding at my door shatters the peaceful evening. My heart rate spikes, a Pavlovian response to sudden noises since the accident. I approach cautiously, peering through the peephole. My parents stand in the hallway. My father shifts his weight from foot to foot, his usually impeccable silver hair disheveled. My mother wrings her hands, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. They look nothing like the polished couple from Cassandra's award ceremony photos. I open the door but don't step aside. Madeline. My father's voice lacks its usual authority. May we come in, please? The please stops me cold. In 31 years, I've rarely heard that word cross his lips, at least not directed at me. It's important, my mother adds, her voice trembling. I step aside, curiosity overriding caution. They enter my home like strangers, perching awkwardly on the edge of my sofa, declining my automatic offer of water or tea. Silence fills the room, thick and uncomfortable. My father stares at his hands. My mother's eyes dart around, landing briefly on the missing family photos before skittering away. What's happened? I finally ask, remaining standing. Whatever brought them here, I want the advantage of height. My father looks up, his face a mask of defeat I've never seen before. Cassandra has been arrested. The words hang in the air between us. I wait, knowing there's more. Securities fraud and money laundering, he continues, his voice hollow. $1.8 million. My mother's quiet sobs punctuate his words. It's all over the news. Everyone knows. I'm sorry to hear that, I say, surprised to find I genuinely mean it. Not for my parents, but for Cassandra, whose desperate need for approval has apparently driven her to criminal acts. We've already spent $300,000 on legal fees, my father says, getting to the point with unusual directness. The best criminal defense attorney in Chicago, character witnesses, PR consultants to manage the media fallout. I nod, piecing together why they're here before they say it. We need your help, Madeline. My mother reaches for my hand, but I step back slightly. She withdraws, hurt flashing across her face. We need to borrow from your savings. $250,000, my father specifies. We know you have it. You've always been so. He pauses, searching for the right word. Responsible with your money. The irony isn't lost on me. The trait they've dismissed throughout my life, my practicality, my careful planning has suddenly become valuable to them. I absorb their request with surprising calm. 6 weeks ago, it would have sent me spiraling, desperate to earn their approval at any cost. But that Madeline shattered along with my bones in the accident. Would you like tea? I ask, moving toward the kitchen without waiting for their response. The familiar ritual of heating water, selecting tea bags, and arranging cups gives me time to think. I return with a tray, setting it carefully on the coffee table. Tell me more about Cassandra's case, I say, pouring for each of us. What exactly did she do? What are her chances in court? My parents exchange glances, clearly thrown by my measured response. They expected either immediate agreement or emotional refusal. My analytical questions unsettle them. She made some poor investments for clients. My father begins. Investments she knew were fraudulent? I ask. The situation is complicated. My mother interjects. And the money? Where did it go? There were expenses, my father says vaguely. Lifestyle requirements for her position. I sip my tea, noting how they squirm under my steady gaze. The power dynamic has shifted, subtly but unmistakably. You've always been the responsible one. My father says again, a note of desperation creeping into his voice. Cassandra, she's different, more fragile. She needs our protection. And I didn't? The question comes out softly, but lands with the force of a thunderclap. They stare at me, suddenly seeing the weight of their choices reflected back at them. I set my cup down with deliberate care. No. No? My father repeats, disbelief coloring his tone. I won't be using my savings for this. His face darkens, the familiar anger rising. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me? My voice remains steady. You weren't there when I was cut from a wrecked car. You weren't there during 6 days in the hospital. You chose an awards ceremony and European vacation over your critically injured daughter. That's not fair, my mother protests. We explained. Yes, you explained that Cassandra needed you more. She always has. My father stands abruptly. If you refuse to help now, you're no longer part of this family. Do you understand what that means? I look up at him, feeling a strange sense of peace. I've been cut off from this family since the day of my accident. The only difference now is that I'm finally acknowledging it. The truth hangs between us, undeniable and final. The phone rings at 6 a.m. Uncle Robert's name flashes on the screen, an unusual sight that makes my stomach tighten. I've spoken to him maybe 3 times in the last 5 years. Madeline. His voice carries the weight of obligation. Your father asked me to call. He says you're not returning his messages. I sit up in bed, wincing as my still-healing ribs protest. I've been busy recovering from nearly dying. A heavy pause. Look, your sister made a mistake. We all make mistakes. But Cassandra needs family support right now. The sunshine pouring through my curtains suddenly feels too bright, too optimistic for this conversation. Who supported me when I needed it, Uncle Robert? 3 more calls come before noon. Aunt Josephine with her disappointed sighs. Cousin Timothy suggesting I'm being selfish. Even my mother's bridge partner, Martha, calling to remind me that family stands together in troubled times. What they don't say, Where was this family solidarity when I lay alone in a hospital bed? My phone buzzes with a text from a number I don't recognize. The prison's calling system. Cassandra! Maddie, please. I'm scared. I promise I'll be a better sister. I never meant for any of this to happen. The old me would have crumbled instantly, rushing to fix everyone else's problems. That Madeline died in the car crash. This version of me deletes the message. I open my laptop to find an email from my father, the timestamp showing he sent it at 3 a.m. Madeline. Your continued refusal to assist the family during this crisis leaves me no choice. Unless you reconsider your position regarding financial support for your sister's legal defense, I will be amending my will accordingly. The Jenkins family values loyalty above all else. Your actions will determine whether you remain part of this family. Richard Jenkins. I laugh, a sharp, bitter sound that startles even me. He's threatening me with the very thing they've already done, exclusion from the family. The doorbell rings as I'm making coffee. My mother stands on my doorstep, mascara smudged beneath bloodshot eyes, her normally perfect hair disheveled. You need to leave, I say, blocking the entrance. I'm still your mother. She attempts to push past me. Not today, not here. I stand my ground, surprised by my own steadiness. I raised you better than this. Her voice rises, drawing attention from neighbors. How can you abandon your sister, your family? The word abandon ignites something in me, White, hot and clarifying. Abandon? Like you abandoned me in that hospital? That was different. It always is with Cassandra, isn't it? She's still arguing when I close the door, her voice becoming background noise as I lean against the wall, heart pounding but resolve unbroken. That evening, I sit at my kitchen table with my laptop, researching what my parents wouldn't tell me. Court records, news articles, financial statements. The truth emerges, piece by damning piece. Cassandra didn't make a mistake. She orchestrated a sophisticated fraud scheme, stealing $1.8 million from her company and clients. When caught, she tried to blame 3 junior colleagues who had nothing to do with it. A Chicago Tribune article reveals this wasn't Cassandra's first ethical breach. There were incidents in college, covered up with donations. A previous employer who agreed not to press charges after my father intervened. A pattern emerges. Cassandra takes what she wants, consequences be damned. My parents clean up her messes, shielding her from responsibility while expecting me to be the responsible one. I create a new document and title it The Truth. I work methodically, the way I would approach any project at work. I gather hospital records showing no family visits for the first 6 days after my accident. I screenshot text messages where my mother tells me they're too busy with Cassandra's ceremony to visit their critically injured daughter. I compile a timeline of their Europe trip, extended while I struggled through physical therapy alone. I add older evidence, birthday cards with impersonal messages compared to Cassandra's elaborate celebrations. The college tuition I partially paid myself while they covered every expense for my sister. The family dinner where my promotion was mentioned as an afterthought while Cassandra's new apartment dominated conversation. At midnight, my finger hovers over the send button. The email is addressed to our extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, people who have only heard my parents' version of events. I take a deep breath and press send. By morning, the truth has detonated like a bomb in our family. My phone fills with messages from relatives expressing shock, disappointment in my parents, and most surprisingly, similar stories of their own. The Chicago Tribune headline flashes on my screen. Jenkins heiress cooperates with feds, implicates C-suite executives. Cassandra has turned on her bosses to reduce her own sentence. The shame my parents tried to contain spills across CNN and Fox News alike. Uncle Robert calls again, his tone entirely different. I had no idea, Madeline. Your father cut me off 3 years ago when I refused to make Cassandra CEO of my company. I thought I was the only one. Aunt Patricia reveals Cassandra borrowed $50,000 from her retirement fund money never repaid, despite repeated promises. Your parents told me not to mention it to anyone, that it would damage family harmony. Cousin Elizabeth sends a lengthy email detailing how Cassandra sabotaged her job interview at Richard's company. My second cousin Michael forwards me angry exchanges where my parents demanded family members invest in Cassandra's failed startup. The evidence mounts by the hour, a lifetime of manipulation exposed to daylight. The courtroom is eerily quiet as the judge announces Cassandra's sentence: 3 years in federal prison, 5 years probation, and $900,000 in restitution. My sister's shoulders slump. My parents sit stone-faced in the front row. I observe from the back, a spectator to the final act of their masterpiece of favoritism. 2 weeks later, at Thanksgiving dinner hosted by Aunt Patricia, the family dynamics have visibly shifted. My parents arrive late, their usual confidence deflated. I watch from across the room as Uncle Robert confronts my father. "You've enabled Cassandra her entire life, and look where it's gotten her. 3 years in prison, Richard. And you drove away the one daughter who actually lives by the values you claim to uphold." My mother attempts her usual deflection. "We've always treated both girls equally. Madeline is just more sensitive." Aunt Patricia interrupts, her voice uncharacteristically firm. "Evelyn, we've all seen the evidence. No one believes that anymore." Cousin James pipes up from across the table. "My wife and I were in Chicago when Madeline had her accident. We offered to visit her in the hospital, and you told us she didn't want visitors." My mother collapses into tears, but this time no one rushes to comfort her. My father's stammering attempts to justify their actions fall on deaf ears as more relatives share stories of manipulation and favoritism they've witnessed over the years. Later, I drive to my parents' house. I carry a small box containing childhood mementos participation trophies, school photos they never displayed, birthday cards signed with hasty scrawls. "I'm returning these," I say, placing the box on their immaculate coffee table. "I don't need them anymore." My father stares at me, looking somehow smaller than I remember. "So you're severing ties with us completely? Over one mistake?" "This isn't about one mistake." My voice remains steady. "It's about a lifetime of them. I forgive you both not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace." As I walk toward the door, my mother calls out, "You can't just walk away from family." I turn back one last time. I'm not walking away from family. I'm walking toward it the real kind, built on mutual respect and genuine love. In their stunned faces, I see the truth finally registering. In trying to save their favored daughter, they've lost the one who would have stood by them through anything if only they'd done the same for her. What does freedom from toxic family relationships really look like? As I drive away from the house I grew up in, I realize I'm finally about to find out. The sunlight streaming through my balcony windows casts a different quality of light now. Not the harsh, clinical rectangles of the hospital room from a year ago, but warm pools that stretch and retreat across my hardwood floors throughout the day. I trace the familiar path of light with my gaze, marveling at how much has changed in 12 months. My shoulder still aches when rain is coming, a barometer I never asked for, but the restrictive brace is long gone. The physical therapy exercises have become part of my morning routine, alongside coffee and journaling. Some habits born from pain are worth keeping. To Madeline, Sarah raises her glass, drawing my attention back to the small gathering in my apartment. Who showed us all what real strength looks like? 6 people stand in my living room, glasses raised, their faces lit with genuine affection. Not a crowd, but exactly right. My chosen family. I'd say I'm lucky. I begin, then catch myself. Lucky. The word no longer lands like a stone in my stomach. Actually, I am lucky to have each of you. Kevin, my boss who became a mentor, nods appreciatively. Mrs. Peterson dabs at her eyes, her weekly homemade casseroles having sustained me through months of recovery. Emma, who flew in despite her fear of flying. Uncle Robert and Aunt Patricia, who reached out after decades of family-enforced distance. And Sarah, who saw what everyone else missed and never once made me feel burdensome. No parents, no Cassandra, and amazingly, no void where they should be. Uncle Robert catches my eye from across the room. Before the accident, he was just a name mentioned at holidays, another family member pushed to the margins for failing to play by Richard and Evelyn Jenkins' rules. Now, he and Aunt Patricia have become the family historians I never knew I needed. Your grandmother would be proud, he tells me later, his voice rough with emotion. She had that same steel in her spine. Our Sunday brunches have become a cherished ritual, their stories filling in blank spaces in my family tapestry. Turns out I come from a long line of strong women, just not through the branch I'd been focusing on. The promotion couldn't have happened to a more deserving person, Kevin says, setting his glass down. The team actually cheered when I announced it. He's not exaggerating, Emma adds. I was on the video call. People literally stood up. The warmth spreading through my chest has nothing to do with the wine. At work, as in my personal life, I'm finally being seen. Later, after everyone leaves, I drive past the intersection where my life changed course. The skid marks are long gone, the twisted guardrail replaced. I slow, not out of fear, but acknowledgement. The sight no longer triggers panic, just a quiet recognition of before and after. Back home, I open my laptop and find Cassandra's latest email waiting, her third from prison, each one showing incremental growth. No demands, no manipulation, just simple updates and cautious questions about my life. The therapist calls it earned redemption, this careful rebuilding. I'm not ready to visit her yet, but I answer her emails now, brief, honest, measured. My therapy sessions have decreased from weekly to monthly, but the support group I now lead meets every Tuesday evening. Adult children of narcissistic parents learning to redraw family maps, recalibrate normal meters. Watching their faces as recognition dawns, you mean it wasn't just me? Heals something in me each time. The Thanksgiving dinner last month marked a turning point. My first holiday hosting, my first without obligatory family tension. I remember Sarah's impromptu toast, to the family we choose who love us as we are, not as they need us to be. We laughed that night. Not the careful, measured laughter of family gatherings past, but deep, unguarded joy that left my sides aching in the best way. Yesterday at the hospital, where I once counted ceiling tiles in desperate isolation, I sat beside a young woman with a cast similar to the one I'd worn. No visitors, no cards. The echo of my past was so strong I almost couldn't breathe. The first week is the hardest, I told her, placing a small plant on her windowsill. But you're not alone. Now, on my balcony, I carefully position small terracotta pots in the late afternoon sun. Basil, mint, lavender, rosemary, each representing something I'm cultivating in this new life. The soil is rich between my fingers as I press seeds into the darkness, covering them gently. My mother's letter arrived this morning. I recognized her handwriting immediately, the precise, controlled script that once represented authority in my world. I read it once, noting the familiar patterns of subtle guilt and obligation wrapped in concerns about my isolation from family. Then I set it aside, its power to destabilize me gone. In my journal, I write, "Their approval is no longer my responsibility." I've learned to maintain clear boundaries with my parents' holiday phone calls kept to 30 minutes, visits conducted in public places, topics of conversation carefully curated. Dad still tries to push for more, to regain control through guilt or obligation. Mom vacillates between tearful pleas and cold silence. I remain steady, a wall of water that cannot be grasped or manipulated. Balance in all things, my therapist reminded me in our last session. Boundaries aren't punishment, they're protection. The evening air carries the scent of spring as I water each pot carefully. Some seeds require darkness before they can reach for light. Some roots need to be cut back to grow stronger. Some plants thrive best when transplanted to better soil. I smile, patient with their progress, patient with my own. Family isn't always who raised you, I whisper to the seedlings, to myself. Sometimes it's who helped you raise yourself. What does family truly mean to you? Is it defined by blood or by the people who show up when you need them most?